Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Today is January 29th, 2026, and this is the meeting of the Northborough Design Review Committee. First on our agenda is 20 Barefoot Road. Today we have Quentin Hart, and he's here to give us an update since the last meeting.
Okay. Is there any way to close the participant window?
I don't-
That gets a little larger.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's probably as good as it's gonna get,
Thank
so,
you.
yeah.
Maybe I can also make this full screen.
So that's much better. There we go.
Okay, all right. So thank you, committee members and town staff for having me back. We're here to talk again about 30 Barefoot Road. I'm going to put forth a brief presentation really talking about the plan changes. I know there are a number of other open items for the committee to deliberate on or may have questions on that are not covered in the presentation. And we can certainly go through those after. So just jumping in right into the changes, there was a comment by the planning director. We previously had the dumpster occupying one loading position in the back of the building. That was simply because we often see our tenants do that. But the recommendation was to free up that position by moving the dumpster elsewhere. We've relocated it just around the corner on what was previously just turf back here. And it's designed, this hashed line is pavement, but just striped so that it's not circulation or parking pavement. And so it's designed so that the garbage truck can do the same circulation that any trucks would do on the site, pull in, get the dumpster, back out, and go forward. And the reason they designed it that way is basically to prevent the trucks from going against the flow of traffic. And so it's sort of an intentional design by our team. I should mention Jesse is available on Zoom if there's any specific technical questions or he wants to add context. So that is the dumpster pad. It's still in the back of the building. We're not proposing any fence or enclosure to make it more convenient for use, but you can't see it from Solomon Pond or Barefoot Road just by virtue of the building.
That's a good question.
The next change was what we thought was a good suggestion to move. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just had a quick question on the driveway.
Yeah.
As you want them to have a travel in this direction, are you going to put arrows on the pavement to suggest it as well?
Yeah, I think that we'll definitely have. So let me go back maybe to this exhibit as best. I think the main thing that we'll likely do is have signage here to make it clear that that is not a point of travel. And I think that that might be a good idea, Lisa, to also have an arrow just indicating that all traffic goes that way, and that would be totally fine with me. We like the circulation this way because when a truck driver is then backing up into their loading dock, they get to use the right-hand mirror, which is closer to the, side. They can actually see what's going on versus using their left-hand mirror instead of their right-hand mirror, because the right-hand mirror is on the other side of where they sit. So they still have blind spots if they do that. And so the counterclockwise circulation for trucks is much more desirable for backing in. So, but I think that that's a good point between some sort of signage back here to indicate no entry there and just an obvious marking to turn in there would be a wise addition.
I have a question too while that's up. So this is the new driveway. This is a mock-up of what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
When we did do a walkthrough, I want to thank you. We did go out to the site, but it had snowed before we got there.
Yeah.
I see the parking lot for the current building at 10 Barefoot, and there was a fence around it, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Will that fence still be there?
I have to get back to you on that. We're not showing it on the plan right now because they didn't indicate to us that they needed one going forward, but I'd like to ask, the owner of that property about that.
Yeah, because this is a good view from here, I can see, so the wall is in between both buildings.
Right, yeah, that's that retaining wall varying somewhere between 8 and 11 feet kind of throughout there. Some grass in between and then it's hard to tell, but the wall is roughly even with the grade on the top. And so the shrubs will then be on top of that wall going higher.
So the fence isn't right along, there is a big.
There'll be no fence on this, to be sure, because I'm the proponent of this site, there will be no fence on that side. This one, they had a specific need for the GSA, the government tenant that's in there to protect that equipment. And I don't know what that requirement is going forward. And so let me get that answer and make sure that we're prepared when we're submitting that for site plan approval.
This is a good view, because I was picturing the fence right along the driveway, and it looks like there's quite a bit of green space.
There's quite a bit of green space, and I did mention, I think previously once, is that concerning the same questions about landscape density here. So 10 Barefoot will be a site plan application that comes in kind of as separate applications, but to be reviewed together because they are interrelated. And the configuration of this parking lot is very important to the owner of this property to make sure it works for them. And so changing it materially by adding landscaping inside of it is going to be difficult. Now, we know that is the will of the town. And so one thing that we want to do, Amy, is add a lot of landscaping against that. So even if there were a fence or even without a fence, I think that in our site plan submission, you're gonna see trees
Okay,
here.
yeah,
Because that's what we're gonna be suggesting is a solution to accomplishing more of that open space and buffer on that lot.
and that seems to be what you did somewhat for 20 Barefoot too, right? There aren't big trees in the parking lot, they're along the edge.
Right, yeah. So it's just, and maybe this is a good time to jump to this. So I acknowledge that this exhibit is hard to see from where you are, so I'm going to try to work you through it. So this is the 10% calculation, okay? So as we interpret it, if you can follow me, the light blue line, oh, I can't touch this thing. The light blue line is the area that you get to measure. It's kind of the extent of the parking area. And the hashed gray areas are what needs to meet the 10% standard per the bylaw. We are at 6.3%. You can't see that number. But the way the calculation works is it excludes all of this red area because you're only looking for the edge of parking inwards. And so what we're asking ultimately, I believe a waiver is what we'll need for it, for the bylaw, is we're asking the board to consider the fact that all this other landscaping does exist as part of the parking area. And that in the context of our site specifically, that's worthy of consideration versus only drawing the extents of the spaces themselves and capturing what's within that, if that makes sense. Is this a helpful exhibit, sort of describe how that calculation? So the gray areas totaled up equal 6.3% of the area enclosed by the blue. But the area enclosed by the blue does not include a lot of landscaping that is directly adjacent to where those cars will be parked.
But the side buffer, Lori, is always, we have to have landscaping in the side buffers too. So,
Yeah, we do require that.
So I just don't wanna take away, cause we had to do that buffering anyways.
Mhm.
So if you're at 6%, I was wondering if the 4% could be added somewhere else too.
I'd be tempted to count the buffers around the property itself, the state property, because that is a buffer behind the building and on the side. So
Right. This is specific for parking lots.
What we struggle with this specific
Yeah.
scenario is that if I have to find more gray in here, I either lose parking spaces, which is just not good for the marketability or necessarily even for the bylaw. Or I'm gonna have to move those spaces somewhere else, which means that the average travel distance for a visitor or employee or someone going from their car to the entry is going to increase. Because I'm gonna have to find some land up here to put that. And then I'm also asking them to walk across the drive where the trucks are exiting. And so our approach was to try to balance this a little bit and say, we really want the parking to be as tight to the entry as possible and not spread it out. But at the same time, we do appreciate the intent of the bylaw. We're trying to skirt that. It's really to soften and provide shade and all of these sort of things. And so have we struck the right balance and perhaps don't meet the explicit measurement that the bylaw uses as a proxy to make sure these are taken care of? But if you look at what that 10% is intended to enforce, we do believe we made it, which is softening the parking, splitting it up and those
Please
sort of.
correct me, so if they come up with a shared parking agreement with their neighbor, then all of it gets aggregated.
What do you mean? Like,
Like the side buffer goes away if you have a shared parking agreement with 10 barefoot.
Oh, remember they have a big difference in
Right,
elevation.
right, that's what I'm
so
saying.
it's really gonna-
There'd be, you'd have to put like a ramp on the right hand side or something, not easy, but I'm just saying there's
Like, for example, we don't get to include, in this, the fact that there's a tree here, a tree here, a tree here, a tree here. It just doesn't get to include those sort of things. And I'm not arguing that the bylaw is wrong to have 10%. I think it's good to have something. I think that there are just instances where that 10% is not necessarily.
right, so I'm talking more hypothetically, if they had a shared agreement, they'd be all set.
oh,
So if it's okay, if they had a shared agreement, why wouldn't we?
Well,
Yeah, it's-
remember that 10 barefoot also has to comply with that requirement. So.
Yeah, I think-
They redo their parking lot, the portion that is impacted, so the portion that isn't impacted doesn't have to comply. But the portion that is impacted does have to comply unless you ask for a waiver.
Yeah, and we're gonna ask for a waiver through site plan on that as well, and that's where I was getting to, giving you a little highlight, just because, look, we don't own this property, but they're also cooperating with us. Our goal is to make this better than it is today, if we can do that. So, this is, from my understanding, much more like a planning board. Because this is parking configuration versus a new construction or extensive reuse. But, one material change just to point out is that we now have circulation in this parking lot versus two dead-ended aisles from before. And then, Lori's comments about that landscaping is well received. And so we do not have trees here. But you are going to see a version that has trees here because we think it's a really good idea. Now, it will be the same problem of explicit measurement pavement in because we need to maintain parking counts and they're very sensitive to that there. But the same way that we're asking for you to look at the whole site there in context of a waiver, we'll be doing that here by showing good faith attempt to achieve the intent of the bylaw and leave things better than before. But Lori's right, it's like you can't really even combine both of them because this is not conforming either. So that doesn't solve it necessarily.
if they don't agree to put the trees along the fence, can you put them along your driveway?
Are they gonna agree to that?
Oh, no,
Right.
if they don't, or have they agreed to put them along?
Well, you know, the reality is I'm going to have to make that happen, you know, and so I think it's on me to get back to the board, but I think it's a good comment. I think people like screening generally. I think especially if I answer your question at the planning board that a fence is necessary, that's also going to be helpful in screening the fence. And
But say they say, no, you can't put the trees on our property, could you put them along your driveway on the other side?
oh, yes, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, yeah. I think that like, it would be nicer if they're along that because they actually then have the benefit that I think the bylaws
Right.
intended to provide, but from a screening point of view, I think it's a good comment, so I want to make it work, whether, you know, it's something that I can do and fully control, or if it's something I can convince, you know, that applicant, us applying on behalf of them to add to their plan.
Okay.
I have a question on the island. It looks like as you're going down the long driveway. And we were there, when truck came and did that
Mhm.
picture. Is the island that's in the picture actually there? That's like in the center?
This one right here?
No, go this
Oh.
way. Yeah, no, come back there. Is that already there? Or are you putting that in?
So this is just all green right now.
Okay.
These spaces, you know, I don't think, maybe I have a view. Sure. Oh. But basically, these spaces are not changing at all. Those spaces exist today. What's different is that this is just green right here. There's one big tree in the middle that's gonna have to go. But this will be a new driveway between those. So this is all greenscape. Lisa, the current driveway is right through here. That's gonna be abandoned and pulled up and become, you know, both a rain garden and landscaping. And there will be a single new driveway between the two properties there.
If you look at this picture, you can see the existing configurations. The locust plan.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting when you go, like when you're there and we saw that big tree that. Hate to have to lose, but.
I guess this is, yeah, you know, yeah, this is kind of it. So that new driveway will kind of go along the line right through there. Should I just run through the other changes or a few more questions on that?
Sure.
Okay. So we also agreed with the comment that we should have some of the bicycle parking up front. So we've relocated 2 racks, which is 4 spaces to this corner here. That is a very sort of obvious place for bicyclists to see when they first come in, and it makes a visual connection there. It's under the shade. It's not by the front door in case people just abandon bikes there. We don't really like the look of that, but it's obviously in the front of the building. We've kept 4 racks, so 8 spaces in the back of the building by the patio, which our thinking is a more private space since these are likely going to be employees of the company, and they might, if they have showers here, they might go out for a ride in the middle of the day, you know, and keep them in the back there. So those have been added. 2 other changes on this is we've added 4 EV parking spaces. Same principle as the bicycle spaces on arrival. It's very obvious where they are. You don't have to search for them. They're right there in the corner. For us, it's also very helpful to locate those near the building so that the electrical conduit doesn't go all over the site getting to them. We've confirmed that there's adequate sidewalk space for that specific unit that's noted to land there and still have safe passage behind it. And then finally, there was a question of interpretation here, but we agree with the plan director's interpretation of this as a side yard based on there not being physical access from Solomon Pond Road. And so this was previously below 20, it was 24.75 or so. And so we've ensured that the remaining setback is now 25 feet minimum there. What else? So last meeting, we discussed that most of the building signage will be coordinated with the tenant, both freestanding and building. One new sign has come up today, which is the idea of prohibiting circulation in the wrong direction there, which is helpful. But last meeting, I promised to come up with sort of some direction for the committee of what we intend to do. And so these are precedent images of, what we do. I believe the committee saw the existing sign we've done, which was under construction, hard to tell, but basically our principle is a very simple, aluminum anodized casework that provides an opportunity for a brand, and likely just the number 20, just as our current monument has the number 30 on it. It will be lit in accordance with the signage bylaw, illuminated either from the ground or reverse channel lighting from behind. We're planning 2 freestanding signs. One is to indicate the company that is at 20 Barefoot Road and the address 20. We're not advertising that this is the entry for 30. This is just secondary private easement entry, but there will be a sign here as well indicating the occupant of 30 so that if someone travels up, it's obvious to them that they don't go into the wrong lot, because we'd rather not people go up here and then come back down and get confused. We may also, I believe the comment came up to make it trucks only or indicate there. So we may do that as well. We will be obviously applying for sign permits at that later date, all in accordance with the bylaw.
Do you have a page of that? Do we have a color, can you have a color page of that on the side?
If that's,
Yeah, if you could give us a copy of that presentation, great.
I can give you a copy of the presentation, yeah.
How much does it match the 10 and 30 that exists?
So how much does it match it?
Yeah.
10 is very different. 10 is on their corner and is more of a taller sign there. I like signs that are low, and the reason is that they need to be far enough out that they're very visible to traffic, but they shouldn't be so high that they obstruct any views as you're rolling out to leave a property. And so the signs that is at 30 Barefoot, we will likely do the exact sign we have at 30 Barefoot, which is a chamfered concrete foundation with just a white box on it and the number 30. On this case, it would be the number 20. And the logo would go right on for that. That's likely what will happen. I could pull up the drawings for it. It's probably about 3 feet high, maybe 40 inches. And the test again is that if you're sitting in a car, you're not like everyone experiences with the snowbanks on the corners right now. It's like, wow, if I couldn't see, it wouldn't be great,
All right, that's fine. I just wanted to.
Yeah. So this is our intent here. We can provide everyone with a copy of this. There was, just to address a comment, there's a comment about still waiting for scheduled materials. The materials are noted in the plans, but we're working on providing the schedule. There was a request to get samples. I showed the committee members the 2 samples we have. I'm still waiting for more. But we will also provide this sample schedule just to run through it quickly. The primary facade is Silversmith. That's the same as 30 Barefoot. We looked at that. It's not quite as reflective. These samples are very hard to go off of. The secondary facade, which is by the entry, this one here, is pewter, which is a slightly darker color. We don't want it to be too different, but it's going to be obvious that it's different. This awning is composite aluminum. That's the basis of design is a color called Tricon Black, which is just black. And then the roof coping is also black, and the window frames are anodized black as well. So basically, there are 3 colors and multiple materials. We just assumed that we would provide the schedule when I actually had enough of the samples to give to Lori and say this is complete. So,
In my opinion, when we went out there, I did like the look of the building that was there.
Yeah, me too.
What was it, 30?
The depth to it with the sheen, but not heat reflection.
yeah, it's a difficult balance, you know.
Yeah, you should
But-
get that, but you do get some value looking at it because it does have some depth to the
Yeah.
sheen with it.
Yeah, and you get a different color depending on what perspective from the sun you have, and the nice thing about this site being on the north side of the road is the buildings are south facing, so you get that light on the front of the property, which is pretty desirable to us.
According to the elevations, the feature with the darker pewter that goes around.
Correct, yeah,
It's all
so
on-
I think I have the elevations here.
Yeah.
So. This is the view from Solomon Pond Road, Amy, so it doesn't go all the way, but it goes about halfway through the front footprint. So the idea is it wraps, the same idea of wrapping along the front. And we did that because you'll see it from Solomon Pond, and it seems like, you know, the right place to articulate the facade a little bit.
And to just go back to being seen from Solomon Pond, will there be landscaping in that area too? Or is it, does it wrap around with it, does it?
Yeah, so it's the right exhibit here. So this is our property that's in the red. So we have a tree here, a bunch of trees here. These are birches. There's also a strip that the state owns that we don't have that is wooded. And
That's.
we're not representing exactly which trees are on this plan, but there are trees on it. I think it's going to be, yeah, you can see it there where that property jogs a little bit, but there are trees on it. It's not going to be clear cut by any means, but it's not going to be dense, like you can't even see the building. Like personally, we'd like to have some visual connection to that building because that lets people know where they're coming and that this is a place. It just should be a softened visual connection, which is why we have not only these birches within our property here, but we also have that same sort of planting along the building to make it just not be only a facade that you see when you're making that connection there.
That goes until the edge of the wrap. Goes down to the edge of the wrap, then go all the way down to the building.
Yeah, so if you look at like the existing conditions on in here, you can see that, you know, our landscaping plan is only delineated until this line here. But there's this additional state land that's currently wooded that we can't take any trees or touch in any way. So that would all stay, anything that's on that.
I was just wondering if we should put just a couple evergreens, because these are birch, they'll lose, well,
Yeah,
they
they
lose their
will, yeah.
leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, or even small evergreens here, just a couple, so that in the winter, it's not so
Mhm.
stark with the white and then you lose your leaves.
Yeah, we could put like some Colorado spruce or something like that. I'll have to
Yeah.
confer with my.
Right, just a
Landscape
couple to
designer.
break out the building in the winter
Mhm.
and the view from Summer Pond.
So I went over the changes to the plans and some of the comments, there were other comments concerning sidewalk and some other things that were not captured in plan revisions that I'm happy to discuss or let the board. The committee members ask questions about this. If you want to dive deeper in any one topic, please let me know.
Is there anything, Lori, that we could go through all of them, but is there anything that was missed?
You know, I figured there were a couple of things that weren't addressed but had been discussed. But it wasn't in writing, so that's why I said that the plans,
Yeah, sure. Like, for example, the paver walkway,
yeah.
we answered it. We didn't really see it being something that we needed to note on the plan, so we didn't realize that it was something that needed to be captured in the submittal. We thought it was just a clarification
I'm
comment.
gonna do this.
And
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through this first.
Okay.
you want to go one by one on the ones that say not addressed?
Sure.
Okay, so the first is signage. Number 5.
Okay. And you just discussed.
Well, so I adjust the intent, yeah, we, there's a lot of information requested in this comment. We don't have that information yet. We will do it in accordance with the bylaw. You have our intent. We're asking you to rely on that. I don't, signage is not in design review the same way it is in downtown business for the bylaw, so I don't know how extensive you want us to pre-design it, but it's just the timing. It's just difficult for us to do everything right now, and we'd love to focus our energy, elsewhere if the intent is, if the committee feels the intent aligns with what their expectation is.
Is the committee okay with
Yeah.
kind of signage the way it was described?
Yes, I think so, because what we walked out there and saw the other piece of something. So it's not.
Right, and you don't know the company that's gonna go there, so it's
Right, so
gonna,
that- what the-
colors.
Maybe if you could just provide with your site plan submittal. The sign that you are building, like the design of the sign that you are building at for 30.
Okay. So, for the freestanding sign, yeah, we could do that.
I drove by the Aspen Aerodale and they got a building sign on there that's basically done and. Entry sign there.
Yeah, it's the same sign as Aspen Aerogelis as well.
Yeah.
It's in Marlboro.
Okay. Number 6 is the sidewalk. That would probably be a bigger discussion. We have a picture here. From Josh and a memo from Josh, the assistant public works director. Who mentioned he supported the sidewalk. What do board members think?
No, I go in the opposite direction because a sidewalk is exclusive. I'm worried more about a bike lane that it connects to, and sidewalks can't be used by bikes. Where. Bike pedestrian lanes can be used by pedestrians. So. Kind of where I am at that, but yeah, if you look at construction wise, they're almost the same thing. One is. Building a sidewalk on top of the curb, and one is pushing back the curb. So they're both kind of costly, take an effort.
So you think the curb has to be pushed back here, you just.
Well, I
couldn't
would,
straight it?
I don't, didn't put a tape measure to this stuff, but I know it pops up to 3 lanes there, and I know. The rest of the road is 40 feet wide, so you've got 2 8-foot lanes and 2 12-foot lanes, which is ideal. And then when you pop up to a turn lane, bicyclists will usually share a lane at that point because they have to trip the light. So going out, that's okay, but coming in, you're connecting on Solomon Pond Road is also a mixed use lane, with cars, bikes and cars. They also have to trip the light there, so they do have to turn the corner. So it looks a little tight to me. But I'm not sure.
did get an email from Scott about the bike lane. And I think he had concerns because it would mean that the entire roadway would have to be redesigned in that location.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the end, probably because it's tight, right? Because the rest of the road looks good.
I don't know if I read that.
You know.
It's the first one I did.
Let's see if I can.
I mean, the land is definitely there, but it's a matter of curb placement.
Yeah, he said the intersection of Barefoot, Goddard and Solomon Pond would need to have pavement markings redesigned. Also, there is not adequate space for lanes from Iron Mountain to Whitney Street.
Right, which is beyond where it ties into the two other trails. So I was thinking, you know, as long as they get up to the railroad tracks, they're good. Because you head over to the Edmund Hill trails or take the aqueduct to the right to the new trails on Whitney Street. So, pretty nice corridor. You almost got a loop trail there.
Although, you know, under this opportunity, you would be providing for folks who are going on lunch breaks to intersect with a sidewalk that goes to existing sidewalks. So there's an ADA ramp there. Chances are the bike path won't be done for a number of years. So you just have.
Well, I think the bike
100
path would
feet
have
of
been
bike
done
path.
2 years ago if it was coordinated. You know, because they just repaved the road. And putting an edge line next to the curb and an edge lane out. You know, line 8 feet out at the same cost.
But that wouldn't, so this would be an opportunity for him to provide the sidewalk instead of the town. Ultimately paying for it, which is.
Right, but
much
it's a
more
sidewalk
costly.
that dead ends 40 feet, you know, or whatever the length is.
Well, right now, there's an ADA ramp that exists there.
Yeah.
But it
And
doesn't
then
go in,
across-
right? It doesn't go,
Across the
there's
street,
no sidewalk on Solomon Pond.
there is a sidewalk on Solomon.
Not on that side.
Sidewalk.
No, but we frequently have roadways with sidewalks on only one side of the street, so.
Right, but it's on the other side already. So I don't understand what, we got a crosswalk there, it would be nice if the crosswalk ended somewhere useful. So either a pedestrian lane, bike lane combo, or a sidewalk. But the sidewalk excludes the bicyclist, so I'm just thinking the lane is better.
I don't know why that would exclude bicyclists, because right now you're just.
Well,
talking
it
about
forces the
straightening the shoulder to provide.
Well, it forces the
Space.
bicyclist
You're not
into,
talking about widening the street, so what does it matter? There's a sidewalk there. It's not going to impact the ability to restripe the road to have a wider shoulder for bicycles.
Would the
right, and I'm
DPW
saying it should. Because you don't wanna force the bicyclist into the travel lane. Where for the rest of the road, he's not going to be in the travel lane.
I guess I don't understand, because before you're just talking about restriping the roadway to provide.
beyond
a
this.
Wider shoulder,
Beyond
so
that,
you're not talking about widening the street.
Lori, may I ask a question? The complete streets plan that I saw indicates that there's already a large appropriation for Barefoot Road, $210,000.
that might be that might be an estimated
That was
cost.
just an estimate, so as part of the.
That's what their
prioritizing-
plan says, that there is an appropriation for Barefoot Road, 210.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no knowledge of an appropriation for Barefoot. So they had to, so every single project on the complete streets prioritization plan. Had to generate a rough estimate for what the cost would be. But that money is not in the hand.
I see funding estimated costs $500,000. Funding requested, and I see other funding sources, 210 local appropriation.
But that hasn't been done yet. That's just a suggestion for a
So
source.
if that were
of-
done, where would that money be spent? on other private property to build
It
it?
would have to be a town meeting approval. And, you know, of course, there are a number of priorities for roadways and. Um, right now, the bulk of the Complete Streets money has already been appropriated, so it's gonna be used on Lake and Pier Streets. So, we'd have to wait 4 years in order to have additional money available for this project or any.
Can you tell me why when the road was paved, it wasn't done to complete streets?
You'd have to talk to Scott, I have nothing to do with road paving.
I guess my concern is, if it's number 20 on the complete streets and we already are spending complete streets downtown. So if this sidewalk is built now, by the time the town ever gets around to doing Barefoot Road, it'll be like 20 years from now. So it's
Not
just,
necessarily, a lot of it just depends on. When it becomes a priority and what sort of funding is available from the state and that. That varies with every single governor. So once you elect a new governor, you know, usually the priorities change. They end up renaming state agencies, they shift money from one place to another, like for example, the prior governor prioritized downtowns. This governor eliminated the downtown improvement initiative that no longer exists. So all of the funding that used to be available for downtowns has disappeared. And it was shifted to her priority, which is housing.
what I hear though is like, have you had complaints about people looking for sidewalks on Barefoot roads? Like, I feel from the public, it's more like Maple Street near the schools. So I think our priorities for putting a sidewalk on Barefoot Road would be 20 years out with the amount of money that we have in the taxes.
But this would, like I said, wherever there is the opportunity, you know, we have discussed with the planning board as well as with ZBA about off-site improvements. And whenever there is the opportunity for a developer, you know, in order to minimize the impact of the project, to extend a sidewalk, especially when they're directly abutting one, I make that suggestion. Now, whether ultimately it's the planning board's choice,
Right,
and if the planning board chooses to, you know, require that as a condition of approval, then, you know, great, and if they choose not to, that's fine too. I will always make a recommendation because I feel that that's part of my responsibility.
Well, I'm trying to just kind of make a compromise where you give the increased area in the apron of the road for both pedestrians and bicyclists. So it's just a street level sidewalk, you know, in the stripe. You know, so.
But that isn't a cost that he could, I mean, he has no ability to change the roadway configuration. So that, I guess that's my point, is that the roadway was just repaved, it is what it is. It's not up to him to restrike the roadway, so here is an opportunity to do a sidewalk just along the frontage of 10. I mean, that was my suggestion.
And asphalt, and can we
But it's
go,
asphalt.
can we go wider for that on the sidewalk then, so it qualifies as mixed use?
Well,
Well,
that's what Complete Streets actually recommends. This is actually at odds with that, which is 10-foot wide multi-use.
Yeah.
trail in Complete
If you
Streets.
wanna do a 10-foot.
Yeah,
Well,
that's, I mean,
that's-
yeah.
To be fair, my understanding is that the bylaw does not require this in industrial zone. It does require it in other zones. It is not a requirement that property owners build sidewalks that don't have them in the industrial zone.
But it is a requirement that you provide pedestrian access to your property, to the parking. So.
Well, I can't enforce other properties to build sidewalks, you know, I can do it on
You're
mine.
building a driveway, so that could be something that the planning board requires. What I was suggesting is, the idea was to do a compromise, so instead of doing the sidewalk along the roadway, along your new driveway. Do it along the frontage. So that was my suggestion.
We're not opposed to that in principle, it just. Our challenge with it is it feels a little cavalier, for lack of a better term, where there's not a safe, complete plan for a termination. And now we're basically providing a short end that dead ends on, per this memo, which I don't know if this was intentional, not even on our property, on someone else's. Or not, I'm sorry, not on anyone's property, on public property.
Right.
But we're now doing offsite on town land, but not even in front of our property. To do this segment. That is not consistent with complete street, I'm just not sure exactly. Just encouraging like thoughtful approach, and I understand where you're coming from, Lori, of like something is often better than nothing and it helps get it started. I'm not at odds with that. I'm just really trying to understand the approach and make sure that mechanically it's fair and reasonable and can be done. And
Yeah, I
safe
mean,
for people.
oftentimes when you're talking about networks that are, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, you gotta be creative. You gotta start somewhere, and I know that the town of Westboro has taken this approach with the B-wall. So the B-wall is hugely expensive, it's multiple millions of dollars, so when the development on Chauncey Lake was built, as part of the condition of approval, they were required to build the portion of the B-wall that went along their frontage. So this is not an unusual approach. And it's something that I've regularly recommended throughout my career, and it's a way of getting somewhere. And it even is helpful when applying for grants later, because you could say, oh, well, these sections were built as part of this process, so now we're looking to extend.
Well, I appreciate, as you know, I'm a sidewalk person. We've been trying to get sidewalks in town for several decades. I'm conflicted on this location and on the prioritization plan that was done in 2023 and 22. The description of what was expected down there was not sidewalks with cement. It says the project includes construction of approximately 2,700 linear feet of a new shared pedestrian bike path along Barefoot Road. The project is intended to improve bicyclists and pedestrian safety in the project area for residents and pedestrians. Now, you must have worked with Scott quite extensively putting this plan together for all the information that were on all the different sheets. And the intention was, I'm sure, that being an industrial area, more wooded, more further from town, the look would have, in my estimation, would have been better to move along with that, as Mark mentions, that the road was already done over and painted, when that could have been an opportunity to do that and wasn't. I think that a single area of a sidewalk that may sit there by itself for 20 years, because we won't have any extra money. We can't even get Aspet Hill done. And we've got money from the state to try to do Aspet Hill's land and the sidewalk and the road up there. And that's going on and on. We've got every year the tax levy increases, the taxes go up, and right now we're having a hard enough time even dealing with a Prop 2.5. So to start something that's never gonna get finished, I have a problem with. I would have said, if this was on Route 20, I would have said, you're absolutely, even West Main Street, I'd go on with it 100%. But we're out on the outskirts of town, where truckers are there, where people are more interested in their walking and biking and that sort of thing. And they've already put that blinking light to come across from the other side to nowhere. I mean, there's not even a lot of space to walk around that area once you get across the street. So that's not the responsibility of the applicant, I think, and his is in the back. And he's working to try to get both properties to look nice. And I also don't think he would be on the line to put some sort of a sidewalk all the way down the driveway. I think
Yeah, I
that's a
don't,
long
that's not
stretch.
on here, so.
So,
And then I think on your list, you had that the work should be done by the DPW versus the company that's got a crew there.
No, it would
It
be
doesn't
done
say
by
that.
the DPW.
Yeah, that was, right,
The
okay,
Inspection.
okay, because that was on a different sheet somewhere. Thought I saw that because of the utilities that were there.
so, I mean, I'd make that recommendation to, to keep it, if you're gonna do anything, I do a bike lane, if that's necessary in that small area, but I think it's gonna just sit there because I don't see the town doing anything on its own financially.
Yeah,
Try
I
to
certainly understand how it's not fair to have 20 pay for something in front of 10.
Okay, so as a board, do we wanna include this in our memo, or do we wanna leave it, or?
I personally
Yeah.
think that she should recommend, we put it in her letter and we should recommend a bike lane or something like that and put it on the planning board.
Right, which comes to me.
It's right back.
I'd rather push it back at you guys. Cause I don't know, yeah.
Yeah,
Can a bike lane be done? Are you talking about a bike lane up on the grass or on the road?
well, that's exactly I think if it was on the road, it would be great, but I don't know if there's enough room because of where the curb is. And I don't know, the DPW probably has to move the curbing, they probably can't, it's all granite curbing. And of course, we got the rules against reusing curbing, we have to buy new.
What
Don't we have
rules?
rules like that?
What rules?
Oh, maybe that's not a rule, good, that's a rumor.
It's a rumor. Brandon is worried.
So I don't know the prices of any of these.
Right.
Because it's not, asphalt sidewalk is not all that expensive, I'm like, but there are like manhole covers and stuff on there, aren't there? I thought I noticed them. But,
Well, yeah, I
um,
mean, bike lane,
I mean, bike lanes can be as
it
small
can
as
be
8 feet.
like a B-Walt. There's a proposed, for the intersection of Otis and Route 9. And also the section that's built over by Chauncey Lake. That is an off-road facility.
Right,
It's separated by a grass strip,
how wide is
10 feet.
10 feet, two directionals?
Is it on the same grade, Lori, as the road, and it's just so I go,
No, it's,
okay. It's
I
high,
believe, if I remember correctly, there's some sort of curve. And then there's a grass strip, and then there is the B wall. So this is asphalt. And the rock.
How?
Is there a way to get it on, or is that
I'm
a
curious
lot
how they connect,
to do to get?
like, Abington
To do
to
it.
Chauncey.
Yes, that's.
How
true,
runs
too.
through,
Yeah.
it's the missing link in the.
Um,
Because sometimes,
I don't know, I don't think, well. There's a lot I don't know, which is now this is on town property, so, this is helpful, but then I have to go to the DPW and get permits to do it in their property and make sure.
Yeah, that's part of
And it's
the
gonna be
right
design
of way
standard
for
and,
verify.
yeah, so I can't say right now what their spec is gonna be.
before
And
the planning board, Lori, can Scott figure out a price? Like, I don't want it to be onerous for the applicant to have to do it, but if it's something that's not super expensive and doesn't put a lot of,
It's certainly cheaper for him to do it than it is for the town, because the
Right.
prevailing wage.
but it's not fair also, like, I don't wanna put.
Part of what you can do is under site plan reviews for
Right.
offsite
Yeah.
improvements. That's
so, yeah, I.
something regularly
Even the
required.
pedestrian accommodations that Lori's talking about are not in the industrial zone, they're in other zones, the way that I read it, and so. It's less about the cost, I mean, the cost is a material concern, but I'm not objecting to this because it's too much. I'm just really encouraging that I understand that it's cohesive, I mean, the fairway would be like, okay, we'll do it right in front of 20. But
right,
I can't do it somewhere else and we end up with a peak. If I can encourage something else, maybe I can. But,
I'm
right.
waiting a long time. So,
I don't know that it's something to rush.
I mean, he has to go back and explain
I
to the
have to-
people that pay the checks, write the checks, why, where it's required.
Well, I also have to understand a little bit about what the scope is gonna be, I'd be agreeing to something that I'm not required to do, which is not uncommon, but, I have an open mind. This is not about objecting to it on principle. It's that we feel that it should be done carefully. That's
This
all.
doesn't really show where the plane transitions, but I would think getting it at least passed with.
We have this one start, and then we don't have enough
We don't
money
have-
to continue it.
We won't be able to pay, we're gonna continue, then there's not gonna be any new people coming in
Right,
that are
but,
gonna pay for it,
but the roadway is used
as
as
it
a
is,
trail anyway.
right, as it is.
So, and actually, it looks like they used the cheap paint on it, so 3 years that has to be repainted anyway.
Yeah.
So 3 years from now, maybe do the 10-year paint. And have just that transition from the corner to, where the handicapped ramp is. To the roadway, and it looks like it all happens in front of 10. Because you just gotta get past where the turn lane is.
So you're saying the town does it in 3 years? Repaints?
Well, I don't know what the frequency, but it looks like it's the cheap translucent paint that they paint. They've got the 10-year paint, 3-year paint. Stick on
The
stuff.
striping is super cheap, so if it's if the project is just a striping issue, there's no point in putting that on.
Right, then,
The sidewalk would be more expensive to construct.
Well, also, if you're gonna stripe it, you're obviously just gonna do the whole thing too, right?
Yeah, that's right, then it would be.
So-
You're not gonna just stripe 100,
Yeah,
200-foot section.
and striping. The lanes look a little wide, but I don't know that they're wide enough to actually move it over, particularly with the turn lane.
it's a
there.
40-foot wide according to the town.
It's a wide enough right of way to have it, no doubt, but is it wide enough to your question, Mark, with the existing
Yeah,
curb?
Scott said it was, so.
Um,
And I almost think it had wide lanes when it was built way back, but that's a long time ago, so.
Alright, so.
I mean,
for-
I'm willing to continue to collect information, to reach out to Josh and learn a little bit about their specs so that I understand and, but it's the will of the committee, what they want to recommend, obviously, to the planning board or decide for them. But you sort of understand my approach to it and, if we can be part of a solution to help the town, we're up for that, we can.
This isn't really a design review committee issue, it's more of a planning board issue to begin with, so.
Let's talk about it,
That's the
Yeah.
design.
Well, it's almost a negotiation though, because we've, the buffer's okay as long as you make these upgrades on the street. Stuff like that, and I'm not a negotiator. I did retire the deal though, but I don't like the mode it puts me into.
I just think we can make, as a board. Make our recommendation, because we've got a recommendation from the DPW, we can make a recommendation, and then the board will have a couple.
It's still planning because we contradict each other, so it goes to you.
But
Sorry.
I would say if it's been on this prioritization plan, it should stay to what the plan is asked for. And not change it unless it comes before and everything else is redirected.
Yeah, and I wonder why the DPW didn't do it 2 years ago.
Right. So, I mean, that's because we really don't. But.
Okay, so,
Well, that's a different subject, and then you can have about new business later. So,
Right, it is. All right, so what do you wanna do? Do you want us to make a little note in what we've discussed, or?
there's gonna have to be a note on the memo if we wanna, even though we know we're just advisory in it. And
Okay,
it's the planning board, but if we talked about it in depth and have some sort of input, that would
well,
be
I mean,
okay to have.
I would think that either we want, if it is a sidewalk, that it's a mixed use sidewalk, or the curb gets moved and it's in the road.
I don't want a sidewalk. I'd love to see a sidewalk that's gonna be connected somewhere.
No, I mean. No, I don't disagree. But a 10 foot lane bike path mixed use connecting to the one on the road, just to transition that period where it's narrower would be acceptable. I would think.
So what are you saying? You want some configuration changes to the point? That would definitely not be his responsibility.
No, I'm saying I want a mixed use bicycle pedestrian lane all the way to the corner. Whether that's on the grass or on the road, I don't care. If it's on the road, you may need to move the curb a few feet. I don't know. I didn't put a tape measure on it.
Yeah.
I guess I think if Quentin reaches out to the DPW and just talks about it.
I
Hopefully,
mean, one of the complete streets, like, watching way too many videos on this stuff, is to sharpen the corner to accommodate the bike lane. Because it's a calming,
So would the state be required?
That would be DPW. Cause you wouldn't just want a shared use lane for 100 feet, so.
well, if the shed, it's adding 100 feet, that makes it a 3 mile lane. A mile and a half in each direction.
But
you know, in Bartlett Street before, one of the applicants did reconfigure a triangle, like. And up, where you go to Marlboro.
Oh,
that
right,
street.
that was, yeah, that was big. That was big, the construction.
Right, so I don't know what you're saying, you'd like to see him reshape the corner, or you'd like to see the DPW reshape the corner?
Right, I'm saying it's not up to me, because if it extends the sidewalk
Yeah,
and it's, we say 10 feet, but it's probably less than that as the minimum for one direction. It's probably 6 to 8 feet in that range for a shared use. That could be on the grass, and I'm fine with that. If it's also in the, what do you call it, the apron of the road, fine with that. I just don't know if there's enough space to fit it on the road with the turn lane, with the curb where it is. And I don't know if it's worth moving the curb 5 feet.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, the cost factor of what I'm gonna do too, the curb is a difficult curb to be sure, and you've got the light and you've got that ramp that goes to nowhere. So that's something that should have been extended a little bit further than it was, and I'm assuming that light was done by the state, not by the town.
This is the time when that bridge was redone.
Right, so,
As part of the Town Pond Mall project.
do the sidewalks go
So,
all the way
in
to
the
Common
tunnel.
Pond?
Yes, sidewalks, I drove yesterday, they go all the way to the skating rink. So, this Northern Sports, which is also the town line. So. I don't know if they go to the town line or to the skating rink. And then then it said, there's a sign that says Bikeston roadway. And then as soon as you cross the town line, it's such a narrow street, you can't even fit 2 cars, so.
So this would be a sidewalk to connect the industrial to Common Pond.
Yes, well, and also down Goddard. But it's not a high use sidewalk over there.
To be sure, I think barefoot is worthy of a sidewalk at some point. Like, the senior center is there, there's new trails going in, like, there are natural resources, like, I think there's a reason it's on the prioritization plan, and I'm not privy to if those are ranked or why and all those sort of things, but it does make sense to me eventually. So I guess I'm not surprised it's there, and I don't necessarily think that there's merit to arguing that it just shouldn't be there, period. It's more about the approach, and
well, I'd absolutely rather see the bike lane talks about than the sidewalk, because it's not gonna be carried through. You're not gonna get a sidewalk all the way down. Visually and even when you're riding.
Well, that bike lane is mixed,
Okay.
and there's different signage for when it's pedestrians and bikes than it is when it's just bikes.
But here's the big thing too, is we can't get Bartlett Street done, we got money for Bartlett Street. Now we're told that Bartlett Street's too narrow. For bike lane.
But we
So,
also get told that people drive too fast on the street, so.
so how do we go to the next step with this?
What do you suggest? What would you like to do?
Well, I'd like to learn more, if I were required or agreeing to do this in that scenario. Whether that's, on the planning board, the design review committee, or, otherwise. I'd like to learn a lot more about. Everything starting with the prioritization plan that calls for a 10-foot mix lane versus the 5 year, and I heard Lori on why, something is, easier and this is something to be done. I think that's what you're implying. But understanding those two things, understanding what specs the DPW would want to do. And then, I just need to do a little more research on like what the intent of the town is to continue with and that kind of thing, and if that's gonna happen, and. You know,
Do you mind meeting?
one idea is that our contribution does cost the town to actually do it, and the town makes a contribution at the same time. So it's not just us paying for a small piece that then,
Right, you kind
that
of.
then, the town pays for everyone else's piece 20 years later, I mean, that's just an idea, but I think. For me personally, I'm just not prepared quite yet to have all the answers,
Before the planning board meeting, do you mind sitting down with Lori and Scott? and just-
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean,
I was thinking if it's 100 feet long, do you know length is about 100 feet, or
I'd have to look at the plan.
if it was 100 feet by 8 feet? That's only, it's under 10 grand.
Where are you talking?
Just that the amount of asphalt, if you didn't pave it.
Oh, from the corner
I'm
of 10.
just- Yeah, I'm just saying, if you ran paver from that ramp to the edge of that driveway, you're talking less than 10 grand in pavers. Where you want asphalt, so it should be cheaper.
Doesn't look like they put the dimension. Oh, actually,
I
no,
can go into,
well, I think this is the entire frontage and that's not the proportional. The entire frontage, 326 feet.
oh, it's pretty long.
But that is,
Yeah, good.
the driveway is closer than that, so maybe it's 200 feet. We'd have to take out a ruler.
No, we're gonna.
And on this
We're
memo,
gonna
it says,
put GIS and do the measure.
on this memo, it says 210 feet. What time is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, talking 20 grand in pavers. So. But it's actually. How many years? Major,
Don't want to undermine myself, but this is not me coming in high above the price, it's really.
I was saying something's wrong.
Yeah, okay, alright. I'll make sure.
Right. Just from a board side, I don't know how much a sidewalk costs, and I feel like there's always pushback, and it's like, is it the cost, is it? I'm not sure what it is.
And we're not even talking a full sidewalk that length, we're only talking transition into a lane on the street. I don't know how to measure on not that.
Okay, well, we'll have to keep going to the next one, we'll have to figure that out after. I think,
Okay.
so. The next one is electronic charging stations addressed.
Number 9, says this comment was not addressed, so, we've responded to it, I don't know. Looking for a note or what we need to do, close the tower, if this doesn't necessarily need to be addressed in submittal.
I think that would only come up with,
Number 3 is, I'm recommending that you guys comment on number 3.
Oh, alright, I'm sorry.
the 20-foot landscape buffer consisting of grass and shrubs between, and this is between 10 and 20 Barefoot Road, it's now gonna be 15 feet. We had a discussion that you were gonna try to put trees along the fencing.
This is the one that has that retaining wall.
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's just the front. Where we already do have trees and shrubs and. It's just 15 instead of 20. Due to site constraints and, our position is that that grade difference combined with the trees and shrubs on top of it is worthy of a waiver or a recommendation, whatever the appropriate thing is, to allow a variance down to 15, because it's sort of, it's almost more effective screening than 20 feet on equal footing, because you have different sight lines.
What's the board think? You wait, you put it on
Yeah.
the screen, yeah.
Your computer sleeps, you're gonna have to.
Oh, it
watch
looks like I got
Yeah.
dropped somehow, hang on.
I've got computers. Just say,
Do you think there should be a waiver for the enclosure from dumpsters, even though you're why they don't need them? We should make an address.
so yeah, a building like this doesn't
Yeah.
really have a dumpster, they get a compactor. We don't have any rules for compactors, do
We can do
Well,
that.
any mechanics are supposed to be screened from view. It's a compactor at mechanics.
we? I'm trying to
Anything,
think 30 kind of is screen from view, because it's on one of the side bays.
yeah, Lord wrote in a memo that it's screened, so we think need to. Because there's so many.
Yeah,
things.
yeah, it's on the back, I mean, you will, when you're driving down the highway, you're gonna see the building.
You can see the dumpster maybe.
You're gonna see the living area, on 290. Right after the U-Haul place and all that, so it's not like it's a decorative. Yeah.
Yeah, it's screened.
I'm not getting it to load, do you mind if I just show you the
Sure.
Okay,
Okay.
so, all right, I'll put it in the middle. So this is that exhibit, we're talking about the buffer between 10 there and 30 there here. Which is, a 15-foot buffer with a 10-foot average height retaining wall leading across it. So on the plan view, that buffer is right here, and so basically what you have here. Is you have a 10-foot height differential, which means that this parking lot is almost already above the roof line of this building. And then you have a mix of trees and shrubs. The shrubs kind of average height 3 to 5 feet more or less, the hollies. And then the trees obviously in the corner providing additional screening. And so if you're above, you're looking down plus screening, so you're not really even seeing that property. And if you're below, you're looking up plus screening, and so you're not really seeing that. And so in this specific, we like buffers, we think the town is right to have 20-foot buffer. We think in this specific scenario, it's worthy of, consideration of that grade difference.
Okay, with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, we're okay.
I mean, it's a combination of, you have the walls, and you're going for a campus look and all that, so. It's.
Okay, because we don't want to set precedents, but I guess maybe if we can mention that with the wall.
Yeah.
Combination.
Yeah, it's almost, you add the 10 feet bonus. Or some, like an angle.
Okay, all right, so we'll move on to number 3. We're okay with the waiver. The dumpster, Lisa, you were just mentioning the dumpster.
We're just noting that it's make a notation that it's where it's located and.
Where it's located, it's screened by trees from the highway, so it
Yeah,
won't be
yeah.
seen.
Right, it doesn't.
Yeah, now elevation wise from the highway is, the building is up high, right?
Building's high relative to that, but there's still that state buffer, so there will be trees.
Yeah.
I think from the side highway, you will see, parts of the building.
Yeah, that's
When you're
not
going
bad.
65 or whatever people actually drive, it's like a flash.
Yeah. Yeah, but you'll be driving down that ramp along it, but they're evergreen trees, so
Right,
you've got some buffer.
and by the time you're actually on the ramp. You're almost like half stick.
Well,
Perspective.
yeah, the ramp starts back here.
Right.
I just think if it starts to look comfy back there, hopefully, I know you
No,
don't
you've
want it.
got a lot
Yeah.
of trees in between
That-
that area of the ramp.
Here-
and
here's like-
Stuff is.
Not to like get over the top, but like, if it doesn't look good, we're gonna add trees on our own
Right.
intuition, because like it's gonna be. The tenant is likely gonna wanna put their brand.
They've got a leasing there.
Right,
So like, we're pretty well aligned on that.
okay. All right, we're gonna probably come back to the sidewalk for the final move. So right now, what number we're talking about, 9? That's probably more of a question for groundwater, you think, Lori, is that why you're asking about porous pavers? They have to,
I don't think that's really anything that you folks have to
right,
comment on, because aesthetically it's gonna look similar.
right,
It's just a matter of, maintenance. If you maintain porous pavers well, then they won't shift over time, and if you maintain them, then they will shift over time, so.
okay. We handled the bike rack, we've heard about that. Number 11. Oh, this is the 10% open space, and you discussed the 6% open space. Is everybody okay with waiver? The 6% open space,
Well. I mean, if an applicant goes for a waiver, it's really not much.
we can decide whether we agree and recommend the waiver. Or if we don't think they should have 10%.
Wasn't it like a very small, it was like foot or something?
Well, it's the same place as that retaining wall between the two parking lots, so it's part of the campus look to have multiple industrial places near each other. So a slight missing buffer is not a big deal to me.
Okay, I agree. I'll go around with more.
You said it was 6.3?
Yeah, of course.
And you were adding trees
It's
in other
kind
areas.
of like the buffer becomes the perimeter around the whole 3-building complex, you know.
Maybe to make up for that, you can add a couple of the arborvitae's near the birch trees.
Yeah, if you could just call them evergreen, so I have the
Evergreens.
opportunity to talk to the landscape designer of the right
Yeah.
species.
Yeah, cause
Because I mean, I'm just thinking that like, if we go for something that will grow wider, fewer will be more effective,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, you mentioned blue spruce and there was.
Yeah, it's like a couple of different, and you also don't necessarily all want exactly the same,
Right.
just aesthetically, so.
It's not natural.
I'd be open to you all adding a note that, along the eastern outside landscape strip. That some evergreen planting will be added.
Okay, maybe we can add that, Lori, as kind of mitigation for the,
Oh, can you point to me exactly where you want it?
It was this area here, we're suggesting that we add a few in here to sort of balance the bird.
maybe that will make up for the 6% open space mitigation. There's only 6%
Well,
open
it's that,
space,
like,
I know,
nothing is ever gonna happen on that state land, cause.
Yeah.
So I count that, so.
we're in agreement to waive the 10% open space.
Yes.
Okay. Number 12. Talks about existing parking spaces at 10 Barefoot Road be reconfigured. You were gonna look into that before. The
Yeah,
planning
so
board?
we will recount and show that, we do it as a planning board issue. And so that will be clear and, accomplished in our site plan review of 10 Barracks.
Okay. Number 13 talks about the siding, and you already talked about that too. And we were in agreement that we like the colors. So,
But we will continue, we'll make sure physical samples get delivered, so if it comes to the planning board and they wanna look at them, that group can look at them as well.
so number 14 has to do with snow storage, and that's for planning board, so we can skip the planning board things if we'd like to move on, but I do know for planning board, the snow storage after. This huge storm, we know how important snow storage will be.
Yeah,
We look around town now and there's so many parking lots that are like just full of snow,
yeah.
so,
All going,
right.
a lot of people's snow plowing budgets are bust already.
I think the rest of the items of the planning board. So are we finished as a board reviewing this application?
The only thing was, maybe not, with signage and stuff.
It's up to you. I think we were in agreement as a board that we like the current look.
Yeah.
So, and
So
he
maybe-
won't know until he gets.
I mean, she,
Kinda.
in her letter, that you have a thing that the sign is pending. Review or design review.
I think what I heard that we're happy to agree to is that with our site plan submission, we'll submit a schematic of the main freestanding sign.
Mhm.
That will be consistent with the intent here. And so I would think that if it is the will of this committee, they could recommend that. As long as that's true,
Mhm.
that they support it.
I'll be there to make sure.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing I read in the letter that being on the planning board, I would mention is. It says here that, let me just read it. I recommend applying for permit use in the planning board. I wouldn't recommend doing that till you know what the use is, because there's so many different industrial uses.
Yeah.
It's hard to approve a special permit without knowing what's going on there.
Yeah.
So I actually wouldn't recommend going for a special permit.
Can I speak to that for a moment?
Sure.
Okay. So. The challenge for us is that. Looking at two equivalent properties in different municipalities or locations. The people making real estate decisions for many of these companies, are risk mitigating. And even if they can read the bylaw and say, oh, this ought to get approved, you know. Knowing that you have a 6-month, 3-month, 90-day, 60-day, 30-day, whatever it is, it really depends on the use, right? Process ahead of you is enough to say an alternative without that approved is just what we're gonna do. We're just not gonna look at one that requires a process. Now, I understand why the process exists, and so this is not so much a design review conversation, but since you bring it up, Amy, and knowing you're the chair of the planning board. The reality is that. In all of the buildings that we own, I would rather eat a sandwich off the floor of them than a lot of other uses. These are clean. Fully contained, quiet environments that are inside the building that are not using hazardous materials, that are not, you know, big warehousing operations. And so what we had planned to do and hope that the board would put under consideration. Is to apply for those uses with a whole lot of governors on them, meaning that. They will be applied for, but we will be agreeing that, you know. Let me just illustrate it because I'm not in front of it and we're not applying, so these are not necessarily the things. But warehousing, for example, will not be for fulfillment, will not consist of more than X percentage of the building. It will be only incidental to the other activities in the building. You know, with respect to hazardous materials, and noise, which is another concern. Anything requiring those uses would then have to come back for the special permit. But if they fit within a narrow set of conditions that we'd like to start proposing and then hear the board at least listen to and put under consideration. Perhaps there's a middle ground where that for some tenant types, Amy. We can say, okay, if they meet every one of these criteria, it's inside, it's not noisy, no hazard, like. This is something that we want to give them certainty over, but of course, all of these cases, the reason why this special permit exists. If we are excluding from that and making sure that they have to come back to look at any of those things. Then we want to do that, and so what I'd really like to have an open conversation with the board about is can we walk that line between coming up with something that is marketable for us, but also for Northborough for the right users while still making sure that we have all the protections that we desire to make sure that we don't lose control when someone comes in without coming to see us for things that we do not like, or at least we want to see and hear them talk about. And so that was going to be our approach, because we know that the users, if they see that they need to do a process, it's not that they, it's just, it makes them very risk averse. And so that was going to be our approach, is to try to come up with, not assuming that you would just say yes to light manufacturing and warehousing, but to come up with a very reasonable offering to say, this is how we want to contain it. What other suggestions do you have to add to this? And then can the board get comfortable with these limitations to put this out there to prospective occupants in a way that they can have some predictability, unless they don't meet these, and then they gotta go talk to you.
That would be something for the whole board, I can't really.
Yeah,
speak to,
no,
but
I know, I just
it's
wanted to give you a little
yeah,
background
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Sure.
Is there anything we would prohibit? I mean, this, type of manufacturing or anything like that? Given the location, I can't think of much.
No, I mean, the only things like, as a board, we've approved everything. The only thing we had problems with would be like Chadabi, which is now gone. Because that brought in all sorts of hazardous chemicals. And then there was Steris that the board had a problem with. But Steris had 12-foot wide walls, and they were doing this
Like
X-ray system that had never been done in the United States
Well,
before.
they did Aspen.
Next to a
I
neighborhood.
mean, I don't know what the new Aspen has inside of it, is any manufacturing.
CNC machines.
So
and-
I'd say
I mean,
they
I
would-
would eat off that floor.
I was in their old building. From, Mass MVP, and then I toured their place down in Providence, and. The new place is awesome, I mean, you don't even smell
Well,
ammonia.
I think this location
I wish I
too.
could show it, it's like cool.
No, I mean, you can't smell it, that's a big
Yeah.
improvement.
This location too is very different. The other one, I think the other locations both abutted neighborhoods. Where this abuts 290.
Right.
And it
And
has 3
this-
days, I mean, I can't talk for the board, so I don't think it's as much of a concern. As the areas that abutted the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is even, it's set so far back that even the daycare, or, potential daycare place there. Is far enough away, cause there's like regulations against doing drug facilities near daycares and all that. But I think they're only like 100.
Well, all that stuff is already there, and St. Cobain, mostly not on the Northborough side, on the Marlborough side, but you see those stops and you know what they do
Well,
there. And so that's why I don't necessarily disagree with any of those examples you provided, and so
Right.
that's why I think that like a reasonable approach, and again, I know the board isn't here and you're not speaking for them.
Right.
Like, we could have a good conversation of like, okay, what are the boundaries of this, that makes sense, where we
Right.
can get comfortable giving some certainty, and what are the things that like should definitely be excluded from that, where they need to come back, and so. That's our philosophical, approach to, that you will see when we submit.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so as a board, I think we're all set as far as design review, as far as the building, the landscaping. The lighting, we talked about at the last meeting, and we saw it in the other parking lot. So I think we're all set to close up and we can do a memo. What I heard for the memo was. Arrows on the pavement for traffic, we just might wanna note it. The waiver of the 10% landscaping in the parking lot. The addition of a couple, I don't have the number of evergreens inside.
You could leave it vague, that'd be
Yeah.
great, because I love the design to drive by,
Sure.
but, I think we capture it for the planning board
Yeah.
review, so.
Oaks are almost equivalent to evergreen, because they both fill leaves.
You know,
Yeah, they're dead, but they stay there until the new ones
I
come
think
up.
the evergreens, so.
right, I think
I like
evergreens have
that.
a nice
I
little
just,
color.
there's so much stuff killing evergreens right now.
It's true.
Okay,
Party and leaf.
also, so with the sidewalks, we're gonna leave it as a recommendation, maybe that Lori and Quentin and DPW sit down and discuss what would work best. And then,
Well, I don't-
The planning board decides.
Yeah, I still feel it should be bike lane if that's what we put on.
yeah, if we're gonna do it, it should match what? We can add that to the memo that word lead towards following the
Yeah,
complete
based on the
streets.
complete streets description.
Mhm. Is there anything else we need for the memo? Lisa, you mentioned a waiver on the dumpster enclosure because it's up higher and it's screened from the highway already. But hopefully, if it
And
becomes messy, you'll.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll make sure no one gets.
It's probably going to be in a compactor in one phase like it is.
Yeah.
With the other place. It's 60,000 square foot building, so.
We could get the cultural council out there and paint a little mural on it.
So there's people that don't like that. So
Well, hey,
it's kidding, everybody.
that's right, so bring the arts to the woods.
okay. Is that everything?
So
There were 2 waivers?
I'm glad we got to walk the site and see what it.
I have 3,
What was it?
the 15-foot buffer versus the 20, the 10% open space in favor of 6.3% open space, because they're gonna do the evergreens. And then the dumpster enclosure.
Okay. One other thing we wanted to mention was arrows on the pavement for the traffic.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's the freestanding sign to be consistent in style to, or in design to 30 barefoot.
And what they showed in the presentation.
Yeah.
And that he's gonna meet with you and Scott to discuss the DPW and to discuss the complete streets sidewalk.
Got it.
All right. So should I take a motion that to close the meeting? Oh, it's not really a public hearing. I'll take a motion from the board that will review the memo that Lori sends out, but everything sounds like, well, that would be application.
And so moved.
Second.
Okay, so all set. Good luck to you, and thank you for being so complete.
Yeah.
This application was very complete with the elevations and the landscaping.
I like the location you picked and everything. It's a great place for it. I mean, I live in the neighborhood, so.
Thank you to you all and for the town staff because some good suggestions came out of it and I know that we made some improvements. I'm confident there will be some logical answer to the pedestrian process, and if we can all talk about it.
Be great, thanks.
Thank you.
Say, the road was only 2 feet wide.
And as far as the minutes, we haven't had a chance to look at it, so we'll probably review those at the next meeting.
That's fine.
So for
Yeah,
the minutes.
we're pretty much caught up on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
And for the next meeting too, we can talk about finishing up the design review guidelines. I think we just had science left.
Do we have, are we talking about old business, new business, right, quick?
Yeah, I really want to get the guidelines and the checklist wrapped up.
Right.
It's 2 years now, plus, 2 years for me, so.
Right, definitely.
Designs take a while. So what I wanted to bring up when I took a ride this morning by that mobile station. And now there's vehicles there that weren't there before with snow cover. Plus there were 2 that were there, still there and just covered with a tarp. What are we supposed to do about enforcement when this has been going on since April?
You can send an email to Bob.
Right, so, and I think we mentioned something like another something in these as I was looking at it.
What are you looking at? Is that the minutes?
Yes, this is a. Just to reiterate on the office, the signs, that we can't do anything for right now with the weather. We were supposed to go out and
The
see
municipal signs?
three-dimensional for the town, the municipal signs.
Okay.
So we can't do anything until at least until the snow is gone. doesn't make any sense to try to get it out there, so as long as the
So a couple weeks.
sign maker, like, there's still a hold up on it.
Okay, do you want me to write an email to Scott, Chuck and Peter? Mention that we still wanna do the cutouts. And go do a site visit,
Yes,
but we have to wait for the snow to melt them.
well, a lot,
Okay,
all right.
and I was thinking the next meeting for design review, I can't meet the second week. Of February, but I was thinking if everybody's okay, we can do the third or fourth week. So it's a month out. From today, February, oh no, March. Oh no, February,
Nobody's
February
waiting for us on
19th or
anything,
26th.
right?
Are there any
Nobody's waiting on us.
applications?
I have none.
Okay. So. I would actually rather bump it to February 26th if we can, so everybody, that will give me time to review the
Yeah,
signs.
I agree. Yeah, February 26th.
Or we can go all the way to March.
I say, if we wanna talk about new stuff. I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't think we want to, right?
Tonight, today?
Well, no, I'm just saying, we're caught up, we've got our when we get our checklist in place. This whole process should be streamlined, right? So. We free up time, right, for everybody.
I think the checklist is already done.
Yeah, no,
So-
we just gotta get it in action, so.
When we get the next applicant, Lori reviews it, we can do the check sheet from home before the meeting. And then if we have any other concerns, we can bring those.
Yeah,
up.
I'm gonna say, that's where we want it to be, where we want it to streamline the process. Guidelines are up to date, and a lot more complete than they used to be. So what do we have in front of us? And I think we should probably work on modernization of some of the guidelines, you know, for a year from now type of things where we start talking about. Those vehicles and how we incorporate them into the design lines. You know, I'm doing all this complete street stuff, so I'm getting well versed on it. But I can tell there's something lacking with the implementation about it, so maybe we can help somehow.
That'd be great, we're just gonna.
What,
Yeah.
and I think too, I mean, we talk about signage and stuff, I mean, sidewalks are a large part of sidewalks, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
probably wanna keep them. I know I would like to keep them more conforming, looking the same, and coming up with some guideline for that, how it should look and how we start doing them from now, because you've got Gale Street and Allen Street, such a vast difference. And the application and the usage, for me, Allen Street was a disappointment because we know there's 18-wheelers on Allen Street. And we know that they pass each other, and I've got pictures of school buses and 18-wheelers passing each other. And that should have been the street that had the granite curbing I asked for, and it didn't. And there wasn't a lot of development of that sidewalk, it was just the grass was scraped away and asphalt was just laid down.
So remember, our design guidelines only apply to projects that trigger site plan review. So DPW as jurisdiction, they've got their own regulations having to do with sidewalk on public way. So we don't have the ability to tell them.
It's definitely outside the design review type of.
So that would be
Thing,
the board
but
as
we are-
selectmen.
We're advisory to the planning board, and if the planning board would like us to be advisory on other subjects or things like that, I think. I have a lot of time to research this stuff. I am an engineer. I can come up with ideas that people can't, that don't,
Oh, yeah.
you haven't done.
Because even though they have their own design standards, how do you separate those two designs? Where are the standards? How
Yeah,
do we get around this?
but I'm just saying that the design review committee has no jurisdiction over sidewalks that DPW is building on roads that they have jurisdiction over.
Okay, so we could change the bylaws.
And we
Well,
just-
I say, it's not up to us to decide. But I-
Because it has nothing to do with zoning, so remember,
I say-
design review is tied to zoning. And the DPW doing maintenance on sidewalks has nothing to do with zoning.
Right, and most we could do would be help prioritize or come up with ideas that might be implemented. Maple Street was they haven't considered some of those things I suggested.
Mhm.
And I could, I can come up with cost estimates on it and, you know, suppliers and all that type of stuff for the reform stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. But as I say, I mean, we need consistency and we have your consistency.
I say, the more I'm learning about complete streets is there's a major flaw downtown that should not have been built that way, and now I can tell you. And I think the state was that, so nothing against that DPW.
Now, in Millbury, didn't they have a complete streets committee? Cause I think when you came here, you said, oh, don't you guys have a complete streets committee?
We had, when we were putting together the prioritization plan, we did have a committee. So the committee wasn't really active, you know, once the policy was put in place and the prioritization plan was done. So the town adopted a policy and the policy tells the DPW director what to do. So, you know, it's up to him to do what the policy says.
An example of something that I came up with that our bylaws say a minimum of, 11-foot lanes with 2 feet of, shoulder. It's not legal. You gotta add the two together. I mean, basically, we're designing our side streets for 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, none of that has to come, that should be.
I mean, DOT recommendation is 10 to 11 feet.
So when it comes to the construction of new roadways, that is the subdivision rules and regulations. That the planning board has jurisdiction over and adopt
Yeah.
after a public
Yeah.
hearing. So that's been my goal for the last 3 years, is to update those 23-year-old
Yeah.
regulations, and I haven't had time to do
Yeah,
it.
it's just,
They read it, Mark.
well, it's just our planning board, or bylaws contradict with, you know, the, complete streets guidelines and for natural speeds and all that type of stuff. And it's really fascinating, you know, cause, you know, the edge lines can establish the width of the road. And I just noticed on Crawford Street, the solution was to put a speed limit in, well, success rate of that is about 20%. Where if they had painted edge lines, the natural driving speed drops down 10 miles per hour. So,
Yeah, our
It's-
regulations say that newly constructed roadways should be 26 feet wide.
yeah, that's,
Nobody does that today, you know, it basically the size of the streets depends upon. The number of homes served by those streets,
Right.
so generally, you know, if it's only like, say, 1 to 10 houses, then maybe 20 feet would be a more.
and that doesn't even count the sidewalk, right? And that's, or does it?
So we do have in our subdivision regs specific regulations having to do with the sidewalks, but I think they really need to be updated.
It's like,
Agree with those.
well, I Google them, you know, when I read the thing, because I don't think anybody, I mean, our bylaw is quite old, but the 2-foot grass strip on the sides of the have to count with the lane width when you talk about natural speed limits. So, you know, because people, see that buffer and they drive faster naturally. So, what, painting a line where if you don't have a line, you know, an edge line painted, you consider all the way to the edge of the pavement, but if that line is in 18 feet or 18 inches or 2 feet, then that's 2 feet off the lane, you're dropping your speed, natural speed, like 10, 15 miles an hour. And you're giving a safety zone for somebody with a stroller to bail to. So,
That's a good idea.
I mean, it's a whole new science, it's been fascinating watching videos and reading about.
Is there anything, how can we,
Oh, you know, it's just a matter of having the time, like, for example, if, you know, once the design guidelines are done. If we could just meet when we have applications, then that'll free up time, you know, I just have so many committees.
Right.
And then there's always work associated with those committees, so if we met less frequently, then I would be able to devote time to that.
I mean, it's definitely gotta be a priority to get all this stuff wrapped up so that it's not hanging over.
right? So we'll meet next month, at the end of the month, are you okay, is everybody okay with meeting? unless we get an applicant that has an emergency,
That's the other question.
we can meet February 26th.
That works for me.
Yeah, that's okay. That was the other question I had. We were supposed to send a letter, a memo to the fire station about the signage. Did that get done? In the minutes.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I may have been gone at that point, so.
So can we do
And
that?
that was about just the new signs, that design.
Yeah, to conform the signage to be what the municipal signs are going
Didn't
to
they
be.
just have a meeting, go back and watch it on videotape and see if they talked about it?
They met last
They
night.
didn't- Well, they didn't meet last night because they didn't have, well, and there were two people, but that was
Did they
It
speak
was
in?
two people.
Dawn and Tom. So, but we still need a memo for them to, and actually, I think the chief had asked for it. Or when I think I went into the building committee and mentioned it or something that they were going to tell the architect.
Oh, you gotta let them out.
I know.
All right,
So
Or I
I'd
got
like to,
contact you about meeting.
No.
okay, well, good to see you.
Thank you. Good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
yes, we soon.
All right.
Get a good tenant for that place, so I can.
Not a great time.
Great.
Let me know if you hear of anyone.
Power tool manufacturer would be awesome,
Yeah.
that's my background.
So
Power tool manufacturing. So you got Boston Scientific.
do you know that at 30 Barefoot, that's where Stanley Tools used to make glue guns?
Okay, no, I didn't know
Originally.
that.
So we had that at one point, we just
I
got.
did, I worked at Stanley for 3 years too.
Okay. It's called Parker Manufacturing and.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember Parker being that. I
okay,
didn't know they were into the Stanley umbrella, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
that's my understanding. So,
Stanley's
Sure.
architecture is snap on
That'd be
it.
good.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. We'll have to bring it
Yeah.
back. All right,
And Chase
take
sounds
care,
like-
everyone.
I don't know about blue guns though.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Gloria is super busy. We talked about sending a signed letter to the fire station building committee. Lisa is saying that she could write an email and forward it to us, and then I can work with Gloria on it, or you can work with Gloria on it
Okay,
to help.
For the memo, I can write the memo too.
okay, we'll send you the information and stuff because there's such discretion of what's going to happen. You know, it is part of the municipality and out of the municipality, they should all look the same.
I mean, for the planning board, you think, I don't know if it's under their domain though, if we put sidewalks, flash, complete streets type of group.
I think we
It
absolutely.
could be
have to
us, or it could be other people, or
I think we have to have
Abby
sidewalk.
can be the person
Yeah.
I can be the person for what, sorry?
instead of Laurie, so that she doesn't have to get tied up with it.
For memos and stuff, I can do memos.
Well, we need a witness to what we're talking about sometimes, still keep us in line.
So, well, I really think we need to discuss the look and the specifics of sidewalks. I don't think that's just a.
I think it's a design related thing, it does, it establishes the character of the town.
All right, well then,
We're kind of limited without it being available.
might. All right, well,
Okay. All right,
I move.
we talked about the letter to the fire station building committee, and Abby said she'd work with Lisa. Okay.
Send it out.
Okay,
We're ready to end.
we are.
I'd like to make a motion to end the meeting.
I'll second.
Those in favor? We ended the meeting at
In person.
1:35.
Everything's.